The fortunes of these young Hawks has changed a bit, having made a comeback in front of a raucous home crowd in Atlanta. And while the Sixers can find things in this game to feel good about, having built an 18-point lead just before halftime, there's a specific aspect to their defense that they're going to have to fix or else struggle mightily against Trae Young in the pick and roll. I've been charting every single pick and roll that Trae Young has run in the 4 games, with a particular eye on who is involved in defending them. And for a moment, it seemed pretty clear that the Hawks' fortunes relied heavily on the success of this play alone. In Game 1, Young tortured the Sixers with his floater all game long. These were the Danny Green possessions that must have had Doc Rivers shaking his head as Atlanta shocked Philadelphia by controlling the entire game despite not being able to handle Joel Embiid down low. In Game 2, it was a back-and-forth game until late in the third quarter, and it was no surprise to see an easy win for the Sixers based on the results of the Hawks pick and roll. Their adjustment was to put Matisse Thybulle on the ball, and that gave the Sixers a huge boost defensively. Remember, the Hawks get to choose who they want setting the ball screen, thereby forcing who has to be involved in guarding the roll man. On the flip side, the Sixers get to choose who they want to be on Trae Young before the action occurs. And while Thybulle was particularly stingy as the point man, when Ben Simmons got a few chances to be on ball, it proved even more effective as Young couldn't get going at all with Simmons at the head of the defense. In Game 3, the charting went a little haywire. Doc clearly studied the tape and made sure Simmons was the main defender on Young. The Hawks countered by bringing Embiid's men up to screen 16 times, and they got roasted to the tune of 1.25 points per possession, which would have tied for the league lead in pick and roll efficiency during the regular season. Even when they ball screened with other players, the Sixers defense couldn't do much better, and yet the Sixers were never threatened as they took a 2-1 lead. The biggest issue for the Hawks was their three-point shooting, as the Trae pick and rolls helped to generate beautiful looks from beyond the arc that the Hawks simply couldn't knock down. In Game 1, they had 10 more threes than Philadelphia. In Game 2, Philly made one more but shot way better from behind the arc, and when the well-ran drive for the Hawks, they got spanked in Game 3. Game 4 told an interesting story, as Seth Curry continued to cook them from outside. First, by running the low post split made so popular by his brother, but when that was well defended with the spin move by Bogdanovich, they flow nicely into a step-up screen that caught Gallinari behind by half a step on this step back. And you had to believe the basketball gods were firmly on the Sixers' side in Game 4, as this possession teetered on the edge of disaster at any moment until improbably the ball short-hopped into Curry's hands where he lets the contested triple fly for their biggest lead of the game. And that brings us back to the Trae Young pick and roll. Since the playoffs are all about streamlining your offense to run your best stuff as efficiently as possible. And it reminds me of my new wallet I have from Exter, the world's largest small wallet brand. I've been able to ditch my huge George Costanza monstrosity and go clean with just the cards and cash I need. I love the premium leather that reminds me of traditional wallets and NBA basketballs. But check how easy it is to pop my cards out and find exactly what I need in an instant, just like the gorgeous Trae Young floater over the Defender. Their wallets have RFID protection against fraud and identity theft. I've got this amazing solar charged card that lets me ping my wallet in case it gets lost in the damn couch again. It can also ring my phone from the card when I forget where I put it again. It's a whole new world where my wallet isn't an eyesore, and they have a great variety to choose from. When I say this is the perfect Father's Day gift, I am not lying. It's an even better fit than Trae lobbing to Capella. Right now, they're having a Father's Day sale where you can save up to 25% off all their products. So head to Exter.com right now. It will change the way you wallet. Much like the Hawks have adjusted their pick and roll from game to game. While Game 4 wasn't as efficient as Games 1 and 2, it was still a very healthy 1.0 points per possession. It was to start the third quarter where the Hawks got right back in the game by scoring on 8 of their next 12 Trae Young pick and rolls. The most common Simmons and Embiid pairing starts us off, and by allowing the inside ball screen to be used back to the middle causes a lot of problems. There's no weak side help as the left corner is empty, and Embiid has to be very concerned about the lob, which allows Young to hit his patented floater without any pressure. This time, it's the same pairing, but they flip the direction. Curry had switched onto Herder off the flare cut, and I guess that distracted him enough to not bump down to the roll man as Embiid decides to eliminate the chance for a floater, but it leaves Capella wide open for the easy layup. Same direction, but this time it's with Tobias Harris's man setting the screen. Harris steps up to hedge, and that triggers the instant pocket pass to the hard-rolling John Collins. Embiid was walking around with his hands on his hips, otherwise he should have stepped up, but it probably still would have been postered by the high-flying Hawks forward. Again, the Hawks bring Embiid up to the pick and roll, going to Trae's strong right hand, and Simmons continued to get taken out, trailing the play by several steps. Embiid does try a swipe in order to dissuade Young from shooting before trying to stop a potential lob, but that gives Young another wide-open floater from 12 feet. The Hawks do a nice job mixing up their pick and rolls, changing direction, position, and even the number they set. Here, Herder sets the first one, and watch how Hill hedges to slow Young down so Thibault can recover. But Hill didn't realize there was a second screen coming. If he knew, this would have been a switch. As a result, it leaves Thibault chasing, and Dwight tries to play the middle ground between blasting and dropping, but the timing was impeccable for Okongwu's roll, the pass was on the money, and Hill was so worried about Herder's shooting that he didn't bump down as the Hawks cut the lead to 2. Young got a rest, and the Sixers promptly built a 4-point lead until he came back in with 8 minutes to go in the fourth. But the Hawks run an important action they've been absolutely destroying the Sixers with, the double screen to the right. So far in the 4-game series, it's led to a ridiculous 1.48 points per possession, generating tons of threes, and while the Hawks should probably use it more, maybe it's so effective because they keep it fresh. Watch Curry hedge high to prevent Young from using the first screen while Embiid waits at the top of the key. This triggers a flare by Bogdanovic since he's already gotten separation from his man. While Curry does recover, Bogdan blows right by him into the baseline. And because of the initial show to double ball screen, Embiid was too high to rotate in time and commits the goaltend. In a tie game, the long rebound gets corralled by the Hawks and they line up the Simmons and Embiid pairing one more time to the left. And Embiid allows Capella to get behind him in an attempt to stop that darn floater from dropping in. It's an easy read for Young, and while Harris was late bumping down, I doubt there could have been anything he could have done short of fouling Capella, and the Hawks had the lead. The Sixers appeared to take control deep into the fourth, as Embiid got away with a severe push in the back, and then a bit of a phantom foul on Capella as Joel falls down. They brought Harris up in the pick and roll, but this allows Embiid to patrol the paint, which he does perfectly to eliminate the Collins shot. With a poor closeout by Harris, the Hawks have a 2-on-1 advantage but don't capitalize as Embiid uses perfect verticality to stop this one too. The Sixers take a page out of the Hawks playbook by running a double ball screen to the right for Harris. Herder snakes his way through to not switch, and it looked like he was well contained until Capella bites on the shot fake. I appreciate the idea of Collins trying to take a charge, but Embiid expertly dishes to Simmons, who instead of shooting a little reverse layup, kicks it to Korkmaz, who buries the wide open shot and a 4-point lead, letting the air out of the Hawks' sails. While John Collins' production might not have been eye-popping, his 5 offensive rebounds were a huge boost to their fortunes, and these two provided much-needed energy at a time when the game was slowly slipping away. So, when Bogdanovic can't hit the contested free throw line jumper, look at the work Collins does on Harris down low to save this possession for his team. The basketball gods have a way of rewarding players with hustle like this, and wouldn't you know it, Simmons is slow to pick up Young in place of Curry out top, so Trae takes advantage. He's got his choice of dump off to Capella for a layup or the wraparound highlight kick out to none other than John Collins, who gets the open corner triple to cut it to 1. While I'm not adverse to seeing Embiid shoot a three-pointer, he's not shooting well in this series, and he was in the midst of a ridiculous 0 for 12 second half overall. Now is not the time to settle for this. Of course, Embiid is dealing with a severe knee injury, but I had a hard time seeing how it was completely affecting his movement. He certainly looked fine in the first half, but I'm sure the pain leads to more fatigue as the game wears on. Certainly, almost airballing his patented face-up jumper in the post indicates his calibration is way off. With Korkmaz defending the ball screener in the Trae Young pick and rolls, the Hawks have scored 7 points in 7 possessions this series. And this one was defended poorly, as Korkmaz cannot afford to just run away from the ball until Simmons is in much better position. I know he's worried about Collins rolling, along with Capella lurking on the other side for the lob as well. But it puts Embiid in the impossible position of stunting but not challenging the floater, and now the Hawks have the lead. The Hawks have Collins guarding Simmons and giving him a severe sag, which allows Bogdanovic to stay glued to his man. Watch where Simmons goes. This is awful spacing, allowing Collins to easily step up and stop the shot. It also puts the defenders in the right spots to close out perfectly as the ball swings to the other side. Trae does a good job to get Korkmaz shooting off the dribble on the move, and they get another huge stop. Because the Hawks cross-matched Collins on Simmons and Young on Korkmaz, it doesn't allow the Sixers to get Simmons onto Young in transition. The effort wasn't good enough by the Sixers to get back. Korkmaz gets beat like a statue, and this play was slightly controversial in that it was a very late whistle, but you can see the very clear contact on the head of Young as he releases the ball. Easy call. Down 3, the Sixers want to try and free up Harris for a three-pointer initially, but this is a risky skip pass off a flare screen. Curry thinks better of it, and they clear out for Embiid to go to work. This is part of the Simmons problem. He hangs out in the dunker spot, which makes it easy for a big body like Collins to help and deflect the ball. But credit to Embiid for sticking with it and generating free throws. Here's where it got interesting. Based on what we know about the effectiveness of their pick and roll versus specific defenders, the Hawks left Embiid down low and brought Korkmaz and Harris into the dance. When they got the mismatch, they quickly cleared out to let Trae eat. The Sixers wisely brought Harris up to double and force anyone else to beat them. This worked better than expected because Capella wandered over to the weak side. Now, instead of Simmons needing to deal with 2 players, he's got a fairer fight with Embiid on his side as well. The Hawks needed to flash someone to the free throw line. This is where the good shots would emanate from. But Embiid was now in perfect position to close to the corner, and they've got Collins trying to be a dribble drive artist. Needless to say, he throws a rocket that had no chance of being caught. Let's see what Doc drew up in the huddle. Remember, when you're down, you don't run the clock down. You generate the best shot you can as quickly as you can. In case you miss, you have plenty of time to foul and get the ball back for another chance. I like the elbow ball screen. That close to the hoop and it puts a ton of pressure on the defense, but the spacing is more compact. Less distance for Capella to travel. Bogdan won't rotate to help off of Curry. Collins doesn't want to leave Ben open under the hoop, and Capella slides over just in time to get a hand on the ball and knock it slightly loose from Embiid's hand. He can't control it enough to get the layup in, and Simmons knocks it out of bounds. Stunning. Where this got frustrating to me was when the Hawks were up by 3, no timeouts left for the Sixers, and it's a perfect take the foul situation. Don't let them get a shot off, there won't be enough time left for another possession, and you go to Philly tied 2-2. Instead, the Hawks opt to play defense. Herter gets caught trailing, and while this is a desperation double pump heave, it was straight on and just slightly long. The Hawks get the win, but they were dodging bullets like Neo in the Matrix. Heading into the absolutely crucial Game 5, keep your eye on Embiid's knee, Curry's shooting, and most importantly, how the Hawks run their pick and rolls with Trae as the ball handler. There is no doubt in my mind that if the Sixers continue to struggle to stop it, the Hawks will continue to make this interesting and perhaps even surprising.